Star Trek is doing the one Riker story TNG skipped. Star Trek Lower Decks Season 5 is doing the Commander William Riker, Jonathan Frakes story that Star Trek The Next Generation didn't do. Star Trek Lower Decks Season 5 is the animated comedy's final season on Paramount+. LT Bradward Boimler, Jack Quaid, got a taste of commanding the USS Cerritos as acting captain at the end of Star Trek Lower Decks Season 4, and he's now concerned with how to travel the long road to become the captain of his dreams. Boimler's solution: grow a Riker-like beard to gain command confidence. Commander William Riker's beard is instantly recognizable and iconic. Originally, Riker was clean-shaven in Star Trek The Next Generation Season 1. When TNG returned for Season 2, Jonathan Frakes had grown a full beard over the hiatus. Frakes intended to shave, but Star Trek creator Gene Roddenberry liked the beard and considered it nautical. Since then, growing the beard has become shorthand for a TV series finding its footing, as TNG began to in its second season. However, TNG never explained how or why Riker grew a beard. He just suddenly had one, and the only time since Riker appeared without facial hair was in Star Trek Insurrection. Star Trek Lower Decks is doing the Riker's beard story TNG didn't. Star Trek Lower Decks Season 5 includes a running gag throughout the entire season of LT. Brad Boimler growing a beard, which Star Trek The Next Generation never did with Commander Riker. In an interview with Screen Rant, Jack Quaid called the ongoing saga of Boimler growing out facial hair one of my favorite season-long arcs that Boimler has ever had. The visual gag will run through the remaining episodes of Star Trek Lower Decks Season 5 as Boimler's beard gradually grows in, but not cleanly or evenly. Quaid loves the gradual progression of Boimler's beard, saying, "Occasionally it's very gross to look at, and it's wonderful." Although LT Brad Boimler has served under Captain Will Riker aboard the USS Titan, Brad's beard isn't inspired by Riker. Rather, Boimler is motivated by meeting an alternate reality LT Brad Boimler who sports a full beard. In Star Trek Lower Decks Season 5's premiere, Das Cerritos, the USS Cerritos accidentally passes through a spatial anomaly into a parallel universe, meeting an alternate USS Cerritos where the crew is slightly different. Not only is the bearded Boimler more poised and confident, but Prime Bradward is impressed by how bearded Boimler also easily takes over command of his Cerritos from Captain Becky Freeman Tawny Newsome. This is the future Boimler wants for himself. Is Boimler Star Trek's new Riker? LT Brad Boimler has some similarities to Commander Will Riker, and not just in terms of Bradward's incoming facial hair. Like Riker in Star Trek The Next Generation, Boimler is a dedicated and ambitious Starfleet officer who wants to be captain of a starship. Another weird coincidence is that, like Riker, Boimler was duplicated by a transporter accident and has an exact double LT. William Boimler, Jack Quaid. It's a mirror of how Riker found out he had a transporter clone named Thomas Riker, Jonathan Frakes. Thomas Riker turned on Starfleet and joined the Maquis, while William Boimler faked his death and joined Section 31. Star Trek The Next Generation, TNG, remains one of the most beloved series in the expansive Star Trek universe. As it followed the adventures of the USS Enterprise under Captain Jean-Luc Picard, TNG offered its audience some of the franchise's most memorable characters, and one of its finest was Commander William Riker. However, despite 7 seasons and 4 films, the series left one significant Riker story unresolved. Now, as Star Trek ventures into new narratives, especially with Star Trek, Picard, and other contemporary Trek shows, it's finally revisiting the storyline that TNG missed: Riker's complex relationship with his own ambition and identity. Commander William T. Riker, played by Jonathan Frakes, was introduced as the quintessential Starfleet officer, confident, charismatic, and a natural leader. Throughout the series, Riker's character was shaped by a specific narrative tension: his ambition to one day command a starship of his own versus his loyalty and admiration for Captain Picard. From the beginning, it was clear that Riker was destined for command, yet TNG never fully explored how that drive conflicted with his personal and professional choices. The episode that highlighted this duality most clearly was Second Chances, Season 6, Episode 24, which introduced Riker's transporter duplicate, Thomas Riker. This other Riker had been created years earlier, when a transporter accident split William Riker into two identical beings, both possessing the same memories and experiences up to that point. While William went on to rise through the ranks and become Picard's trusted first officer, Thomas remained stranded on a deserted planet for 8 years, living a very different existence. The Second Chances episode allowed the show to explore the divergent paths of two men who, on paper, were the same person. Thomas represented a version of Riker who never had the opportunity to thrive in Starfleet, and more importantly, was not burdened by the responsibility of being Picard's second-in-command. While William Riker had chosen not to pursue his own captaincy to remain on the Enterprise, Thomas was eager to carve out a different path. The episode hinted at the road not taken, but it stopped short of fully exploring the consequences of this choice for William. TNG consistently depicted Riker as a man torn between his duty to Picard and his own ambition. He turned down multiple opportunities to command his own starship, notably in The Best of Both Worlds, when he was offered command of the USS Melbourne. Riker's refusal to accept these commands raised the question, was he too comfortable as the Enterprise's first officer, or was there something deeper at play, perhaps a fear of losing his sense of self outside of the shadow of Picard? The post-TNG era has finally started to address this unresolved tension. Star Trek Picard, especially in its third season, brought Riker back into the fold in a significant way, with Frakes reprising his role. No longer just Picard's number one, Riker was depicted as a seasoned officer who had faced his share of personal and professional struggles. He had indeed commanded the USS Titan after the events of Star Trek Nemesis, but the series showed that command had not been without its sacrifices. Riker, now a family man and a veteran captain, wrestled with the emotional toll of his career and the losses he endured along the way. What Star Trek Picard does so effectively is to reframe Riker's ambition in the context of time. Whereas TNG often portrayed him as a young, confident officer brimming with potential, Picard shows us a more introspective, even vulnerable Riker who is reckoning with the choices of his past. The ambition that once drove him to the brink of accepting his own command has been tempered by experience. In this way, the new Trek series is giving audiences the Riker story that TNG only hinted at, one that confronts the complexities of ambition, identity, and the price of leadership. Moreover, Star Trek Lower Decks and Star Trek Strange New Worlds have also contributed to fleshing out Riker's character in new ways, albeit with different tones. Lower Decks presents a more humorous take on the character, with Riker as the eccentric and confident captain of the Titan leaning into his more playful side. This version of Riker seems fully at ease with his command, embracing the adventure and thrill of leadership in ways that TNG-era Riker often seemed reluctant to do. In contrast, Strange New Worlds, though set in a different time period, continues to explore the same themes of duty and leadership that have always been central to Riker's character arc, using other captains like Christopher Pike to offer alternate perspectives on the costs of command. Ultimately, the Riker story TNG skipped was not just about him becoming a captain, but about the emotional and psychological journey that came with it. Star Trek has always been a franchise about exploration, not just of space, but of the human condition. Through the continuation of Riker's story in modern Trek series, we are seeing a fuller exploration of what it means to lead, to sacrifice, and to grow. Riker's arc is now one of the most compelling in the franchise, showing how even the most confident officers can struggle with doubt, and how the paths we take or don't take shape us in ways we can never fully predict.